to be a culturally competent therapist. We are here with none other than Lambers Fisher, the therapist and the author of Diversity in Clinical Practice, a practical and shame-free guide to reducing cultural offenses and repairing cross-cultural relationships. Long title, but a beautiful book. And we are here specifically here in Black History Month to talk specifically about mental health in the Black community. Lambers, thanks for being here. And I want to jump right in and ask you, for all those therapists out there, who, by the way, you can put your questions in the chat wherever you're watching this from. But the first question is for all those therapists out there who feel like I'm not doing enough and I don't know where to start promoting equality, equity, anti-racism, where do you recommend people start? Did you lose our audio?
Oh, no, I can hear you. I can hear you now. Sorry, there's a little technical issue there. All right. Yeah, as far as where to start, that is a very common question. It's a very common question because there's a legitimate need, and there are a lot of people out there genuinely desiring to meet that need. And it's hard to figure out where one's place is, especially since there's a lot of fear out there. There's a lot of fear of, I don't know enough. I don't know everything there is to know. I haven't read all the books. I'm not the anti-racist expert. I'm not the diversity, equity, inclusion expert at my job. What can I say? And not only that, there's the, what if I say it wrong? I already know there's a lot of tension out there. There's a lot of people feeling offended. If I don't know the right thing to say, then it's best if I say nothing. It's almost specifically this concern that if I don't know specifically what to say, it's best if I say nothing at all, which then becomes a problem because just like we were told as kids, if you don't have anything good to say, don't say anything at all. It's like, well, then it can be reasonably concluded. It could be wrong, but it can be reasonably concluded that if somebody sees you not saying anything, then you must have nothing but bad things to say. And you're choosing to keep them to yourself, which is a really scary misunderstanding that we have it in our best interest to learn what to say and what to do. So as a starting point, I always recommend a balanced view between an internal challenge and an external challenge. They're related but different. Internally, we focus on our thoughts, challenge your assumptions, challenge your biases, challenge your prejudgments, pre-thoughts. Don't judge yourself for having thoughts and conclusions. We have them for a reason. We saw something, we drew a conclusion, but test them. Whenever, on a regular basis, whenever you see, oh, I just assumed, test them and say, oh, is that what I always thought it was? Open yourself up to different possibilities, as opposed to, wait, no, you're not what you're supposed to be. You're not acting how you people always do. Don't let that be your go-to. Challenge your assumptions like, oh, that's not what I thought. I wonder if this is an exception or if this is more the rule and what my experiences have been or lack thereof have been the rule. So challenge yourself. Have the therapeutic self-esteem to challenge and test your own assumptions on a regular basis. And then you can be more pleasantly surprised than inconveniently surprised. And then when you start there, then whether it be through actual interactions or reading or just exposing yourself one client at a time, you can learn about other people. Soak up more experiences. No matter what limitations and experiences you have, there's other people who have similar limitations, and one experience at a time you can build upon it. So it's very okay not to know everything. No one does. And if you start internally, you can start from there. The other side of it is externally. What can you do to improve the lives of those around you? You don't have to champion a cause and be the face of a movement and be the leader in an organization. You can start off with saying, hey, what needs are there around me that aren't being met by the general way in which we do things? How can I help be a part of meeting that need? The fact that you see a need that is not being met and somebody else might not even see is a good opportunity for you to say something. Hey, we got about 4 or 5 different groups. Maybe we can have a group on this topic because there's a need here that we could meet and we can start that. We don't have to be the expert to say, how can we meet that need? Maybe you may not meet the need specifically, but maybe you help contract, bring somebody in to do it. But some kind of way to show the clients that you have and the community around you, we see more needs than we did before. And we are committed to meeting more needs. The rest comes as you go. So you can start by changing our thoughts and then changing our actions without saying everything we're doing is wrong, but just to say what new needs can we meet that are being unmet, and then things can grow from there.
Mm-hmm. For those just jumping in, I realize this is sort of a pop-up webinar to talk about mental health in the Black community. Lambers is the author of a new book called Diversity in Clinical Practice. It's out with Pesci Publishing, specifically for therapists who want to learn how to approach diversity throughout their work. That's a shame-free approach and how to repair cross-cultural differences. We do have a promotion on the book. I don't know what that promotion is, but it is there. If you go to that link, you want to learn more from Lambers, this is a brand new book specifically for therapists. So I want to get to some of the questions here. And one of them came up, and let me see if I can find it. It's from Rebecca, and where is Rebecca coming in from? Toronto, Canada. Just finished my MA in counseling psychology. And I was shocked at the colonial framework that informed much of my studies. How do I make sure my practice as a therapist is decolonized? So can you help me and maybe others understand better what colonial framework might mean? And then how do all of us as therapists practice in a decolonized way?
Yeah, it's an ongoing. There's a lot of buzzwords even in our field as far as the frameworks and things like that, and that's one of them that is very legit. And I try to bring everything back to a relational perspective. As a marriage and family therapist, I'm inclined to do so. I do some adjunct instructing as well, but I try to stay out of academia in the therapy room. And so when I think of decolonized therapy in a practical one-on-one sense, it often brings back experiences of clients saying, "You're speaking about an experience that's not related to me personally. You're speaking in a way that addresses the life, the present life, and the historical experiences of people who live in a different city, in a different state, different socioeconomic status, with different mindsets, different focuses, different areas of focus, different values that don't speak to me. How can you personalize your therapeutic efforts, your interventions to my experience, the struggles that I'm having right now, the struggles that my people, my history, my community have gone through? Can you put it in that mindset? Because the direction you're going may be good, but it doesn't fit with my values. And so you can either stay aligned with that, or you can take the time to learn about my values, my experiences, the things I'm trying to overcome, the things I'm trying to distance myself from, the things I'm trying to pursue that may be a little bit different. They may not necessarily contradict where you're coming from, the avenue you're trying to take. But from that perspective, it is influenced by a certain historical perspective that may not necessarily be my historical perspective. And so I very much believe that the past should not dictate the present or the future. But the past does influence the present. It has residual effects. And when we can acknowledge that, then we can say, okay, tell me about your experience. What part of this doesn't resonate? I don't necessarily want to assume that I know the difference, because not just what the textbook says, but it's like, what parts of this feel like you're speaking a completely different language. You're talking about different experiences. And so if we stay focused there, then we don't have to have memorized the book, the textbook, memorized the chapter or the theoretical orientation. We can just say, maybe the things that I'm talking about are not having the same impact. They're not being received as well because I'm not personalizing it to this person's experience. And sometimes you can just ask, hey, what part of this resonates with you? And what parts are like, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just not speaking or you're not disagreeing with me. I'm just not speaking a language that you can experience. And so if we stay relational like that, then we don't have to have the 3 or 4 different bullet points to make sure we address. It's very limiting. It's hard to do in a practical sense. But that way we can say, what experiences do you have that may be different than that which I came from?
This is a big topic. It's really hard to cover in this small little amount of time we have, but thank you everybody for tuning in. Again, my name is Zach Taylor. I'm Director of Psychotherapy Networker. I work alongside Pesci and Pesci Publishing. I wanted to jump on here to help promote Lamber's new book, Diversity in Clinical Practice. It is probably the most practical, multicultural competency type book out there. But I want to ask you, Lambers,
yes.
If you could tell us, just give us a snippet from your book that particularly you find even yourself coming back to again and again, or people telling you, I keep coming back to this part of your book. Share with us one of those nuggets that is in there.
Well, one of the things that I like to promote is the idea that you don't need to know everything about everyone in order to have a positive impact on someone. And it's this idea that says, we try to learn everything, it's impossible. And then we're afraid to make mistakes. So one of the things that comes up often is this idea that it is possible to repair relationships after cultural offenses have happened. We live in this cancel culture mindset. Nobody knows whether we're in the middle of it or toward the end of it is a sort of change, but we know we're not at the beginning. And there's this idea that I can't make a mistake or else my career is over. Maybe my family relationship's over. A mistake is devastating. As opposed to acknowledging that we can try our best to reduce the frequency of unintentional offenses by increasing our cultural awareness, our understanding of the experiences of others, our experiences of ourselves, increasing our cultural self-awareness and other awareness, and then having strategies for responding if somebody is offended. To be able to say, hey, I'm sorry. I'm not quite sure. I don't know exactly what I did, but I know something happened here that matters to me. You matter to me. And I'm going to do my best to not only understand, but to make sure you have a better relationship with me in the future. Whether you're willing to risk that in a relationship with me or not, who knows? But I have practical strategies for how to have that conversation, how to have this, the professional self-esteem enough to own our own imperfection and not necessarily say that just because I made a mistake, that I must be a capital R, racist, characterize who I am. It's like you can make mistakes and it not necessarily mean what it may seem to me. But if we're not willing to own that, then we run the risk of then minimizing because I have to protect my own view. I have to minimize your hurt. I said, no, it wasn't that bad. You misunderstood me. If you would have said, no, that goes down a deep hill and it's unnecessary. We can reassure people of our intentions. We can increase our awareness of ourselves about a variety of people. And in fact, the diversity is way more than just about ethnic diversity. It's just one of the many ways. Include religion, gender, social, economic status, political beliefs, sexual orientation. It was a variety of different ways in which we can be different. And in that sense, to be able to say, I just don't work with diverse clients. It's a nice conversation, but I'm not one of those diverse people. It's like technically, if you consider all those things other than race and ethnicity as part of culture, every client is a diverse client. You may have some things in common, but you also have things different. And so this conversation highlights, African-American community as just one of those many needs. Hopefully it'll encourage you to then be willing to ask more questions about Hispanic heritage month, community and Asian American and gender and sexual orientation. Like just keep the conversation going because we all have things we can learn. And if we do that, then we have a shame-free, encouraging perspective. Not those who are bad need to learn this stuff. We can all benefit from ways to help our clients feel seen, heard, and understood based on all of their similarities and differences as opposed to division.
So this is coming up in a few different ways, and I just want to ask a general question. All of us therapists, myself included, we step in it sometimes.
Indeed.
We do.
Yes.
And we say the wrong thing that offends a client.
Indeed.
Unintentionally, but
yes.
That doesn't really matter because we stepped in it.
Indeed.
Can you give us a little snippet, kind of bring that down one level of how do you repair it when you, to use my phrase, you step in it? Where do you start? What's the first thing you might do as a therapist when you realize that?
The first thing to do is to see it, to recognize it, not just in your head, but sometimes even overtly. I see that there's a disturbance in the force here. There's something changed. The rapport has changed. Was it something I said? To acknowledge it, to call it out, because sometimes the other person may not feel comfortable doing that. Maybe they've had bad experiences beforehand. And if you call it out, they can say, well, I wasn't going to say anything. I was just going to wait till the time ran out of our session and never come back and not tell you why, because it's a risk saying something. You're never quite sure if it's going to be thrown in your face. Speaking again of the African-American community with this type of conversation this month, there's a lot of experiences of people saying things, expressing a concern, expressing an unmet need, expressing offense. I felt offended when you do that, and it's thrown back in their face. Oh, well, now you're making it about race. I wasn't thinking of it about race, but now you're pulling a race card and you're being paranoid and you're playing a victim card when all it is invalidating the feeling. There's a feeling there, whether it was expressed healthily or not. It was a feeling that of offense there. And instead of throwing it back in your face or protecting yourself, you can say, hey, I see it. Was it something I said? It's like, yeah, actually there was. When you said that, it offended me. Then to be able to have the professional therapeutic self-esteem to say, sorry. That wasn't my goal. There's a difference to be able to say that wasn't my goal. You know what? I didn't mean to. That means it doesn't matter. I didn't mean to, so your feelings don't matter. No, I'm reassuring you that wasn't my intent. But what's most important is not my intent. It's the fact that I plan on doing things differently based on your hurt. Thank you for letting me know. I apologize. I apologize for being a bad person. I apologize for a whole history. No, there's some things that happened long before I came around, some experiences that you've had that make this as hurtful as it is. But I'm sorry that something I did reminded you of that hurt. Put salt on an old wound or even a recent wound. That wasn't my intent. But what's most important is I did not intend that. What's most important is not only I did not intend that, but I care about your need in order to say something, do something, and let's interact differently because I want to help you. And everything you do after that point proves the point. If you go on then defending and explaining away, then you missed it. It's a waste of breath. As opposed to, we had that conversation and I said that word made me uncomfortable and I never used that word again. They could argue, they could use that word with somebody else. Somebody else asked me to use that word. Fine. But with me, they didn't. They went this way. They communicated this way. My feelings do matter. And their self-esteem is in check. My thoughts do matter. My experiences matter. Let's see what else they can do. You can acknowledge it while keeping your self-esteem in check and still offer value, offer help. You can have a tense situation where it seems like, do you care or do you not? Show you care enough to reassure. Reassure is a key word. The key to repair is to reassure. The explanation is like 10%. If it's 50-50, that's too much. Well, half is intent and half, no. I hear you, but what's most important is what I'm going to do next. And if you do that, then you can pleasantly surprise. Say most people defend themselves, justify, throw it back in my face. You're not doing that. Let's see how else you can help. I love to pleasantly surprise clients because that gives you the grace room to show everything else, your genuine desire, which you say is the main reason why you're here. You can prove it, not defensively, just in your actions, because you acknowledge it, you called it out, you're not afraid to speak of it, because you know repair, there's a chance for repair. And sometimes they can say, you know what, thank you, I appreciate that. Just be clear, I won't be able to come back. It's just a little bit too much hurt. You're the 18th person who did that. Fortunately, your reaction was a lot better than all the other 18. I don't know that I can risk it, but moving forward, the 19th person won't get 100%. They'll get almost 100% in you. I hope they're more like you than they are the ones that came before. You can still, even if they have to go, you can plant a seed that can help them develop healthier interactions in the future. Even if it doesn't all work out the way you hoped, there's still a repair gift that can still help them long term. There's so many options.
So helpful, Lambers. That was great. You've got a lot of love in the chat as well here.
Nice.
We've got just a couple more minutes here, but I do want to remind everyone that Lambers' new book, it's a little bit of why we're here. We also just want to promote this work, but we're also here to promote this amazing new book from Lambers, Diversity in Clinical Practice. There's a very specific clinical question in the chat that I want to ask you. It has to do with a white therapist and a black family, a young person. Despite consenting to treatment for her child, this is from Mahek, a black mother told her young son not to tell that white woman anything,
yes.
which he then relayed to me.
Yes.
How do you respond to that?
Oh, okay, yes. Okay, so first there's the what to say, and then there's how to conceptualize it. If we take a step back and then we ask ourselves, why would you say that? One, we have to acknowledge they consented to treatment. There's a need there. There's an acknowledgement. I need help. We need help. And yet there's caution. There's fear. There's don't do anything that will negatively impact us. There's a long history, whether it be individual's history, reported, experience, witness, and definitely historical of things. The more information people gain, the more that can be used against you. And there's many times where don't diagnose my child with this because it will limit their access in school. They'll put my kid in this class and it'll stop them from succeeding. I can't let that happen. I want you to help, but don't do anything that will hurt. And so then they train their kids. Don't say anything that's going to come back to hurt us. Yes, go help my kid, but not, I'm trying to tie your hands behind your back, but not because I'm trying to limit you, but there's this caution. So you can start by validating the caution. I get it. I get that concern. I don't know all of your experiences, but I understand that some people in your experiences, sometimes people have had negative experiences. And I want to reassure you, see, we'll come back to that again. I want to reassure you that's not my intent. My practical strategies try to do that. I don't plan on talking to anybody. Reassure them of the consent for releasing information, the confidentiality piece, all the things that you already have as your tools. I'm not talking to anybody. I'm not collaborating with anybody. This is just for me to help you. You want to see the records? I don't even show you. If it's that, you may not even be the biggest sharer of records, but if it's a barrier to you getting cooperation and compliance, it seems like a difficult word for some, but engagement, then I want to reassure you of how I'm putting things down and what I'm doing every step of the way. If you include them more, it's like, this is what I'm sharing. And every little bit that they give you, maximize it. You say, okay, you may not be willing to tell me everything up front, but what are you willing to share? And magnify the heck out of it. Wow, thank you for sharing with that. I will do whatever I can to bring value from that. And if you show that you can bring value from a little bit, that's like, okay, mama, maybe we need to give a little bit more because they've been able to make the most of this bit. I want more value, and I didn't get burned with that little bit. Maybe we won't get burned from this next bit. So it's a challenge to say, make the most of what you have. Because if you say, look, if you can't be completely honest, 100% tell me everything with full transparency, I can't help you. Well, then they're going to walk out the door, because you need to be able to say, I recognize why you can't give me everything. Give me what you got, and I'll make it worth your while. If you're willing to trust me later, then let's do something different. So if you validate it, then it's not about the specifics. And if you understand what's motivating it, you will be less likely to be offended. But, oh, don't tell that white lady anything. That's not about you. That is a principle that precedes their interactions with you. That's not a judgment about your trust, your ability to be trusted, your trustworthiness. It's a caution. Validate the caution, and then reassure it that that's not needed with you.
Yeah, boy. Lambers, this has been a wonderful conversation. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Maybe you plan to be here. Maybe it just we surprised you in your social feed. Either way, you're here. We're so glad you're here. I hope you'll stay connected to Lambers and his incredible work. He's been doing this work for a very long time, and this book is a culmination of a lot of that. Thanks, Rebecca, Vina, Angel, everybody I see in the chat. Thank you so much for being here. Again, we do have a special, it looks like 20% off on the book for now. Go check it out if you liked what Lambers had to say. Thank you so much, Lambers. And I'm so glad you mentioned that trust, that we can do anything. It's okay to say the wrong thing. And you gave us, I think, some really incredible tools for reassuring and emphasizing the importance of not just saying, I didn't intend it, but changing your behavior, changing what you do going forward. I'm walking away with a lot. Thank you, Lambers. I know this group is as well. Thanks, everyone, for being here. I'm Zach from Psychotherapy Networker, Lambers, author of this new incredible book. We will see you another time. Bye-bye. Thanks, Lambers.
Thanks, Zach.